as someone who's living it. Because before, when I was working for a huge company, making really good money as a medical device rep, I used to say, this is a lifestyle choice. Choosing to homeschool our kids is a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
And so if I made half of what I make now,
I would still homeschool.
And right now, I'm not even at half. So this is, what are your priorities? Yeah, it's a sacrifice.
It is a sacrifice, absolutely.
And definitely not, it's not 100% for everybody. Like, there's definitely situations where people can't do it. I understand that.
Of course.
But there's so many people that probably should be doing it that just are afraid. A lot of people are afraid because they want to compete. It's the gods of the ACT and the gods of the SAT,
I know.
that they're trying to worship in the school systems. And so there's a pressure to conform. And like, personally, I think, like, I read a really cool book, probably never heard of it because it's such an obscure book, but it's called The Underground History of American Education.
By John Taylor Gatto?
Oh, yeah.
That's our hero.
We've heard of
That's
it.
our hero, man.
That's my hero.
We love him.
Literally my hero.
See, I thought I was just going to have to explain.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
Oh, no, just...
But a military culture way back. And the Spartans, like, one of their strategies was to take the kids away from the parents, take them out of the homes as young as they could.
As soon as possible.
Train them, not educate them, but just train them. And basically develop a group of a community of, boys in the case of Sparta, but basically people that do what they're told. They don't think for themselves.
Right.
You don't want somebody to think for themselves. That's a liability. And so, and that's what I noticed, right? When you asked me what the biggest difference is when I started meeting these homeschoolers, is they thought for themselves and they really pursued what they were interested in, and they actually loved what they were doing, as opposed to my public school buddies back in playing hockey. They just kind of suffered through it, sucked it up, hated classes, but
So on this historic day when President Trump has been removed from Twitter, and by the way, you should have seen this coming for the last 4 years, and actually it's made Twitter and some of these social media platforms public utilities. Anyways, I want to talk about the convergence of science and politics. And the reason a lot of my friends, and even myself, to be honest, have done a lot of posting on politics along with the scientific posts on social media and on videos like this. Basically, a lot of people that are somewhat influential in the scientific community with really, really interesting ideas and really groundbreaking thoughts, they've separated themselves from the conventional medical system, which is just basically looking at symptoms, prescribing drugs. It's a sick care system. It's not a health care system. They're not trying to optimize people. They're not trying to prevent a lot of sickness. They're usually waiting until you're pretty sick, and then they're looking for these symptoms again and giving you these drugs. People that have moved out of that system are generally very independent thinkers, original thinkers. And those same people have been looking around and recognizing their freedoms are being taken away. So you could say, yeah, you're a scientist, or you're a nutritionist, or you're a health expert, you're a medical doctor. How come you're talking about politics? The reason is because everybody has a stake in freedom. Everybody. Doesn't matter what your background. If you're a farmer, if you're an engineer, if you are a janitor, everybody should be defending freedom. Everybody should be concerned about freedom, particularly with all the censorship of ideas. A personal example to me is I created a couple videos about fluoride, and I noticed they had very few views. And even if you search the exact title of those fluoride videos on YouTube, you can't even find them. And they're pretty in-depth. I mean, I'm a scientist. I went through the science. And they're shadow banned. I mean, that's the definition of being shadow banned, where people are searching for that specific video and it doesn't even show up, even though it exists. I mean, the title of one of them is called Fluoride in Water is Useless. And search it. Try it yourself. I've done this. I've typed that into YouTube and it doesn't come up. The other one I produced is called Is Fluoride Bad? Dangers of Fluoride. And again, if you type that exact title into YouTube, it doesn't even show up. That's the definition of shadow banning. And I have other videos that are very similar, and when you have that experience, which a lot of my friends have had, and a lot of these science influencers have had, they of course are recognizing that there's a manipulation of the conversation, And it's just not honest. And not only that, it's harming health for people like you. You're getting a very skewed picture of the facts. And so therefore, they start posting, raising awareness of this issue, and it kind of merges a lot of their scientific talk with a lot of this political discussion that we have going on in the country right now, which I think is a good and healthy thing. I think everybody should be for freedom, like I said, obviously. I mean, throughout this COVID situation in particular, I've seen certain Instagram accounts and things of my friends get cut in half, go from 100,000 to 50,000. And people have been mentioning this behind the scenes to me long before it's gotten this extreme. So what I did today is I closed my Twitter account. I moved over to Parler. I had only a few thousand followers. I'm not that much of an influencer, thankfully, because I'd probably get more censorship if I was up higher on the radar. I mean, at Mayo Clinic, I took a picture of one of their posters that said everybody should eat more grains. And I posted that on Twitter at one point. And I said, look, this is not scientific. I didn't say anything crude or crass or anything. I just said, look, this is not scientific, and posted that picture of that poster. And they called me into their HR. They had 3 HR reps sitting down, very, very stern. And they basically told me, look, you're not representing the image of Mayo Clinic. We're very disappointed. Don't do this again. Remove this post. That's not freedom of speech. That's not an open discussion. And that's becoming more and more prevalent. Is it all subversive? Not necessarily. What happens, I think, is there's certain scientists that honestly believe masks are amazing. They honestly believe these certain ideas. And then there's also at the same time a political climate that wants to push those ideas. And so then they prop those people up. And then they take other scientists like myself and suppress that other side of the argument. And they suppress one viewpoint really, really aggressively. And it works, right? I mean, I think the reason they did this with the COVID situation is to make Donald Trump look bad. They wanted to get him out of office. They thought if everybody was uncomfortable and annoyed enough with the COVID situation, they wouldn't vote for him. And again, and there was also well-intentioned people at the same time that didn't have any political bias in this. They were just trying to do the right thing that got swept up into this political situation. So I got off Twitter. I honestly recommend other people do the same thing. Let those really extreme leftists cancel themselves. Let them censor themselves. Let them cannibalize their own people.
Jimmy Kimmel is apologizing today for wearing black.
Because they eventually will. Because once you start suppressing one idea, the tendency is to suppress anything that you disagree with, and then it becomes a war of idea suppression. And we're already stepping into that arena quite a bit by banning our president from Twitter. And of course, Donald Trump didn't do himself any favors by continuing to tweet over and over, I won the election, big capital letters. But nevertheless, it's not illegal to have an opinion. This is a big problem for our scientists in our country. And for you, because you want to find out the truth, you don't want to get sick, you want to optimize your health, and you want to prevent health issues from happening before they happen.